Sunday, June 26th, 2022. Today on the Daily Review, we discuss another Indian cinema film called Newton with your host, me, Professor Joe LaRocca. Another good one. This is on Amazon Prime in the States. It is directed by Amit V. I got this one. Masukar. That's not hard. That's not hard. It stars Raj Kumar Rao, Panka Tripathi. Fuck, I'm so bad at these. And Anji. Oh, restart. We'll call her Miss Patel. Anjali. I'm sure it's just Anjali. I don't know why. It looks like a scramble of letters to me because my brain sucks, guys. It sucks. But it's good at watching movies and analyzing them. And that's why you're here. It's not for reading out names. I'm not good with English names either. So this is not like a culturally insensitive thing. You give me any name, if I haven't seen it before, ooh boy, you're in trouble. The name Siobhan almost gave me an aneurysm once. Okay, so what this is kind of a drama, comedy, very indie feeling in terms of like if it were an American movie, it'd be like an indie movie. Although it could be a bigger budget type movie that like Matt Damon would be in maybe, because it's got this like political angle and this moralist angle. But it could also just be like a tiny movie. And I just love small movies. They're just better. I think the bigger your budget gets on a movie, like usually the lamer it is, with a handful of exceptions. Once you get over like $150 million, your movie's gonna suck. Unless you're like Christopher Nolan, it's just gonna suck. It's too much. We need to spend less money on movies. That's what I've been learning. Anyway, what this movie's about is a young, idealistic government clerk is sent to a remote village in India to watch over an election. They're having a huge general election. India, as you know, is the world's largest democracy. And there's obviously, because there's all sorts of different cultures and all sorts of different, these people are living in a very, I don't want to say primitive because that has negative connotations, but they live very close to the earth. They don't have like electricity and technology, and they're living a different type of life. But for PR reasons, they essentially like want to make sure that these 76 voters come out, but it's kind of in a dangerous area because it's near the Pakistani border, so there's been insurgents and all sorts of stuff, and like, so this idealistic guy is like the strongest morals ever is then sent to face against like a military presence that doesn't give a shit. Like they just want it. They just want to look good by having voters show up, but they don't care who they vote for. And a BLO, like a representative who's from the village, who can help translate. And that's what that stands for. BLO, bilingual officer. That's probably not it. Anyway, that's a bilingual would be one word. What am I talking about? I'm so stupid. Jeez, I'm crow. Anyway, so you think there's going to be like a love interest thing, and if this were the Matt Damon version, it would be. But in this, it's like it's not. It's not like a yay, we're in love kind of thing. But she's just there to be like the other corner of the triangle of this moral conundrum or whatever. So then. Then there's the whole issue of the people don't even know who to vote for because they haven't been. They're like, what are you talking about? None of this election does not affect us. You know what I mean? And so this is a very universal topic, actually, in I think lots of democracies. Well, I can definitely talk about in America that there are so many disenfranchised people who don't vote because they don't feel like their vote is going to affect any outcome on their environment, that they don't see any change other than a picture of a new white guy on the wall, just somebody else in a frame, but it has no direct impact on them. So we have that, the disillusionment on the power of the government, which is like, pretty true thing. And then we also have all these fucked up things in our country where we limit voters. Like we make hurdles to make it as difficult as possible for people to vote in areas where we don't think they're going to vote the way that we want them to, or whatever, you know what I mean? So that's actually my brother's job, is like voter protection rights, trying to like just make sure that you're allowing the people, you're not putting like crazy laws or lying to them or giving them misinformation or telling them different locations or not letting them in because they don't have their birth certificate or something insane, just like silly rules that are clearly racial or economically derived. So this, I don't know. I can't speak of every democracy. I'm sure there are other ones that work a little bit better. But when you have a lot of people and a huge diversity amongst those people, I think it's really hard to make just, especially in the United States where we basically have a two-party system, it's hard to get just one person to cover all those things. So you could easily make this film in the United States. And I think that there was some claim that has been completely shot down that there's an Iranian movie that's similar. I think it's called Secret Ballot. And I'm going to look into that. Even the director came out and was like, no, it's not. And like said, that was like something that the media kind of came up with. But you could totally do it here where it's like on a Native American reservation. That could be one of the things, or just like a incredibly rural part of the Appalachian Mountains, which is on the East Coast. I mean, there's probably places in every single state that is just a little area that's disenfranchised. You probably just go to like extreme northern Maine near the Canada border, to a town that only has like 100 people or so. I mean, we have states where dogs have one mayor, because there's only like 45 people in the town. They're like, let the dog do it, So you could totally. What I'm saying is that this is what you're going for when you tell a story. It's both universal and personal, and that's a really good thing. So I haven't really talked about the movie much, and Raj Kumar is just this great actor, right on point, and we've seen that Pankaj in a couple other films, definitely in Gangs of Wasseypur, and he's good, and he's very military. It would be like John Hamm in America or something, if in the version I've created in my head. But it really comes to a great moralistic stand. It's beautifully shot. Remember a few weeks ago I talked about mise en scène, making sure that the way you frame things up are really helping tell the story. You're not just making sure everybody's in the frame. It's got a lot of that, a lot of beautiful, slow pushing. The movie as a whole is a nice slow thing. It really only takes place essentially over the course of one day with a kind of, intro and outro kind of thing going on. Ooh, sorry about that. So I really enjoy that. I like when a movie takes place in like kind of a set timeline. So the goal is for a free and fair election. And what if, that's what you're trying to do? And what if you get there and the villagers don't even care? It doesn't matter whether it's free and fair because it's not fair to them. Because it's not representing them, and no change is going to come to them, or change, as they say, change comes to the jungle slowly, But the jungle itself took years to grow. Anyway, awesome climax and just a great ending. The small Indian movies that I've watched in the past few weeks, I should say, the littler ones, have had like some of the better endings I've ever seen, especially like best last moments. This is amazing. Lunchbox amazing. Ship of Theseus. I mean, the ending of Ship of Theseus is one of the most magical endings, like unexplainable, like a Herzog ending where you're just like, this doesn't necessarily make sense, but what I'm seeing visually, subconsciously, there's no other way to tell it. It just kind of gets into you. This on a smaller scale does all of it. I think the message is great. I think the characters are great. I think the performances are great. And lastly, I love the music. The music is, I'm going to get the soundtrack to this too. I like that acoustic guitar sound and stuff. And then a little bit of mix of more traditional Indian music, classical music. I mean, that's the kind of Indian music that I know. You know, and most Americans know like Ravi Shankar because of the Beatles, you know, and Ali Akbar Khan. Um, but there was a period maybe a decade ago where I spent a lot of time that I listened to a lot of those guys, and they're amazing. And there's a famous record over here. I think it's called "The Sounds of India," and it's them explaining the different beats and cycles and stuff. And every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, I get it, I get it, I get it. And then they start playing, and I'm like, I don't get it. They're like, hey, this is going to be a 10 count. And then they play, and I'm like, it sounds great, but I cannot clap along or whatever. It's a different thing. In America, we're 4/4. 4 on the, it's just do, 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 do. Or at least the 2 and 4. So it's do, do, do. Oh, yeah. Newton, 2017. Great film. I love it. I'm going to give it an A minus. Quite a beautiful film. I really have no flaws with it. I don't know, maybe A minus is even low for it, but I recommend it. I think it's a very universal film. And again, nice slow pace. And that's not a bad thing. Like, nice, just let it develop. Let's just stay here. And some of that, like, sometimes in America when we make a movie for a low budget, we try and make it seem like a big movie. You know, we try to bite off more than you can chew, and then you end up with a few shots or a few scenes. You're like, ugh, that didn't look like a battleship or whatever, you know. Whereas this, it's just like, no, let's just work within our limitations and make the story smaller and go inward into the story instead of outward, you know. Instead of trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy where we go to like 15 dimensions, like, let's just stay in the jungle and in this room. We have a concept that's big enough to discuss for an hour and a half. So let's just do that, set up some characters, bing, bang, boom, bow, bow. That's how you make a movie, guys. Anyway, it's not how you make a movie, it's how you tell a story. Like and subscribe if you like to subscribe. I'm here every single day and have been for nearly 1,000 days. And you can come pop in whenever you want. This Indian cinema thing will not last forever for any, you know, I will get into something else probably in a few weeks or a month or so. But still, like and subscribe and stick around, and maybe I can influence your decision on other types of cinema. I want influence and I want power. I am not a democracy. I am a monarchy.